Well, today we are talking about something that I didn't think we'd be talking about either. I start out a lot of videos like this, don't I? But today, we are going over an article that I found on the Hockey Writers that goes over the New York Rangers and their trade targets. Guys that they could bring in to fill in a void on the right wing. This article was published yesterday by Lucas Standel, and I'll leave a link in the description if you want to go ahead and read this. This came across my timeline, I stumbled upon it, I read it, and I was like, these are some interesting ideas, but of course, there is one very particular one at the beginning of the piece that I thought was more interesting than the others, so why not talk about it on the channel here? Essentially, as self-explanatory as the article's title is, we are going over the New York Rangers and players that they could bring in to fill in the top 6 right wing spots. Now, it opens up, the article does, by talking about how Patrick Kane, the return rumors have been shut down this week, and with this, the Rangers will be looking elsewhere for somebody to help fill the void they currently have on right wing. The only fit that has worked so far is Alexis Lafreniere playing on the right wing on the line with Artemi Panarin. The other top 6 options that have not worked are Blake Wheeler and Kaapo Kakko. If the Rangers want to stay on top of the Metro, they'll need to add another top 6 option that can fit on the line with Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider. Here are 3 potential trade options for the Rangers to consider as the season goes along. Now, self-explanatory, right? Well, today we are going over to the Ottawa Senators and trying to make the link as to what a trade could look like, because the very first name that is mentioned in this article is none other than Vladimir Tarasenko. Now, before we even read what the piece says, Tarasenko is the interesting one because this guy, of course, was a former New York Ranger. He was part of the team last year, scoring 21 points in 31 games played. He also had 4 points in 7 games in the postseason. Now, Tarasenko, as we all know, has been a very capable, very top-of-the-line NHL point producer the past decade, pretty much. Consistent 70-point guy, a few 60-point seasons thrown in there. He was injured a little bit, so he wasn't really the healthiest the entire time. But Tarasenko did have himself a very good ending stint with the St. Louis Blues. He won a Stanley Cup, he came back fully healthy, was over a point per game the past few years, and then, in 22-23, the St. Louis Blues were pretty bad, so he got traded away, they got some futures for him, and he had a pretty impressive showcase with the Rangers. Now, for Tarasenko, this season, he ended up signing a 1-year kind of prove-it deal with the Ottawa Senators. An opportunity for him to go out there and say, yeah, I'm still a legit NHL superstar. I can go out there, I can produce, I can play a top 6 role, I can shoot, I can score, I can set up plays, and I'm going to do this in Ottawa because they have some spots open, and the 1-year deal helps because the cap is rising pretty much year by year at this point, so if Tarasenko has a great season in Ottawa, he's got that 1-year deal he'll sign elsewhere in 24-25, and he'll hopefully be able to make even more bank. Now, the thing is, Tarasenko in Ottawa has been really good this year. 13 points, 14 games played, he's on pace for yet another 70-plus point campaign, and he's actually on pace for a career high in assists, which would be pretty cool, but Tarasenko has still proven himself, so far this season at least, as a very capable, very good NHL top 6 caliber forward. So, let's head back over onto the article and read what it is they write in regards to Vladimir Tarasenko. The first choice is an obvious one because of his previous experience with the team and due to the fact that the Ottawa Senators have had a horrible start to the season. They're currently last in the Atlantic Division and it doesn't seem likely for them to move up too much due to the way the other teams in their division are playing. Tarasenko signed a 1-year deal with the Sens in the offseason after not getting the offers he expected to get during free agency. If he were to become available for trade, the Rangers could be interested once again. They know what the player brings, and for the player, he knows what it's like to play in New York already. He had a decent showing with them last season with 8 goals and 21 points in 31 regular season games and 3 goals and 4 points in 7 playoff games. So far this season, he has been one of the most productive players on the Sens with 3 goals and 13 points in 14 games. He currently makes $5 million on his deal, but if the Sens were to retain half of this contract, the Rangers would be able to fit him in. With Tarasenko, the Rangers know what they're getting, and he would be a great fit in the top 6 because he's a shoot-first player, and the Rangers don't have many of those. If the Sens continue to struggle, look for the Rangers to continue once again to be connected to Tarasenko. Now, there are, of course, two other names discussed in this article as to guys that could be New York Rangers trade targets, but the most interesting one, of course, was the one I wanted to talk about here. If Tarasenko were to get 50% salary retained and sent over to New York, this could be yet another one of these moves where the Rangers end up getting bailed out by some other team that has a superstar player that may or may not really only want to play with New York. I'm not even going to go out there and say that Tarasenko is bound to requesting a trade and that he's not going to end off the season as an Ottawa Senator. It's just an option here. Like, if the Sens still continue playing poorly and Tarasenko continues playing well, he's gone out there as one of the top forwards on the team for points, then maybe there is some sort of an incentive to move away from him. And if the Ottawa Senators decide at some point this season that they want to just kind of sell some guys off, maybe get some assets for the future, like, admittedly, I'm not too sure how likely that outcome is, because we know the Ottawa Senators have been very focused on trying to be competitive. But the point remains, if you wanted to explore that kind of an option, then there would be a few avenues to trading guys away and getting some pretty significant stuff in return. Not even going to say the Rangers would have to pay a hefty price for Tarasenko because, I mean, look, he's a one-year rental, but he is a valuable player, so what exactly is that worth? Last time Tarasenko got traded from whatever team he was on to the New York Rangers, last year, if you take a look at that trade, it was a pretty big one. Tarasenko and Nico Mikkola in exchange for Samuel Blais, Hunter Skinner, a fourth, and a first. It was a lot. So if Tarasenko gets flipped around this time, then does he go for anything similar to this? I mean, you could debate he's still as effective of a player, so what would be the price tag there? If you're an Ottawa Senators fan, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What is it that you would want to get in return for Vladimir Tarasenko, assuming you actually trade this guy away, and assuming it's the New York Rangers that bite and try to pick him up again? If you're a Rangers fan, what are your thoughts on this idea? Would you want to get Tarasenko for your team once more? And what does a trade look like that you're comfortable with? Do you go out there and try to shell out a whole bunch of extra assets like you did last year? Or do you think his value might be a little bit less because, I don't know, I mean, the contract, you could say things moving around and this being a brand new deal, there could be less of a reputation that it's as valuable of a contract? I don't know. That's just kind of me spitting off the top of my head here. I do think that Tarasenko still is as talented as he's always been, but I mean, he's a year older, the contract is a little bit different this year, you could say it's cheaper, so maybe it's more valuable, but I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're a Rangers and or a Senators fan, what are your thoughts on the idea of Tarasenko coming back over to the Rangers? Part of the reason I wanted to make this video as well is because with the Patrick Kane sweepstakes coming up here, and with the entire idea being tossed around that they don't have any cap space to get him on, Tarasenko making $2.5 million against the cap is a little bit more affordable. So if you wanted to force your hand and say, okay, this is a guy they could go out there and get, this one makes a little bit more sense than Patrick Kane. Of course, we know the Rangers did Kane and Tarasenko last year. They got them both. So this year, this time around, who knows what's really going to be in store, right? So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the idea of a second Vladimir Tarasenko trade, this time from Ottawa to New York? This would not have been happening. We would not have been having this conversation if the Sens had just been a good team. But no, they are not a good team this year. And admittedly, you could say they actually are a pretty okay team. It's just performance-wise, standings-wise, they are not where we thought they could have been. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you wanted to go out there and start selling guys off on the Ottawa Senators, and Tarasenko is the first one to go, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about that? I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.